basically, Operation Phumelela, we branded it on something that we could be comparative to Operation Valdene, which was a government initiative on execution reforms of structural changes. What we wanted to do was a focus into capital markets. Really, the premise of this is how do we set up South Africa as a competitive financial sector? That is the opening and end ambit. What we wanted to do is we wanted it to be a private sector initiative so that we could not only drive the agenda at a collective level, but also add the skills and resources from an execution perspective. A lot of the specific work streams in here are topics we have discussed, taken forward to regulators and government over the last 20 years, but they are now packaged in an executable format, and we wanted a collective stream. A good example of this was the Capital Markets Task Force that the London Stock Exchange set up with a number of buy-side, sell-side, and bank firms. And so we've taken a chapter out of that to just package this as a collective. So these are the objectives of Phumelela. I'm happy to share this deck, and I'm happy to get any information thereafter. And we really said it's a private sector initiative to position South Africa as a competitive financial services center. We had many work streams, but we've decided to hone in on 4 work streams just to make it executable, and we thought if we could start proving some delivery on this, then we will get more momentum. But we aligned it to national agenda objectives because we want the support of government. Really just to show here that SA is losing traction as a financial center. You got funds going to UAE, tax benefits, Mauritius, etc., and we think that we have the potential to raise it as a catalyst to bring back, versus the assets that we have, to bring back investment opportunity, not just investment, but structures. How do we manage funds? How do we grow the center? How do we get more domicile of funds and capital management in South Africa? I'm just going to highlight, this is our steering committee. This is the structure of the task force. It's a voluntary association, but we've set it up formally. Senior leaders from across the industry. We try to be as diverse as possible. I'm just going to highlight who the steering committee members are. We've got our CEO, Leila Fourie, who's the steering committee chairperson, and then a broad sector of representatives on the steering committee. Dan Manelli, Nedbank chairman, Michael Katz, Yanni Durant, Ezra Davids, Vuyo and Toy, Johan Holzhausen, Ian Williamson, and Cabello has also joined us from the PAC, so Cabello's also leaning in. And then we've got these 4 technical work streams that we are running. A lot of this comes from the exchange control reforms for South Africa to get OECD status. And so we think it's aligned with policy initiatives, but now we're trying to get it executable. So we got a non-ZAR listings and collateral work stream. The one that is particularly important to this audience here is also the non-ZAR funds. How do we get our offshore, our local managers to manage non-ZAR funds? The cost of capital initiative, which really tackles some of the small and mid-cap generation of growth in the market, and then the costs of capital for non-listed instruments. I'm just going to give you a quick summary of the 4 work streams, just so you know what the priorities are, and then I'm going to stop. Like I said, we can share the presentation, we can discuss it further, and anyone who wants to participate, more than welcome to. So on the non-ZAR collateral and non-ZAR listings, really these were 2 of the exchange control reforms we've lobbied for many, many years, but really is how do we get South Africa competitive. On the non-ZAR collateral, one is how do we get foreign investors to come into South Africa without slippage from changing the currency all the time, and especially on the derivatives markets, that's important. And on non-ZAR listings, why can't we have multi-currency listings in South Africa, particularly in the debt market? Even our government issues debt outside of South Africa on other European markets. And we've seen through Reg 28 and through many other products where our locals want offshore access, but why not have that product, skills management, development, earnings on that in South Africa on one of our exchanges. Then the establishment of the non-ZAR management funds. We saw with Reg 28, not only was it a shift of assets out of SA, we got offshore portfolio managers taking back that money. Why can't our local fund managers actually bring back that money, manage it in South Africa, and even better yet, compete for global mandates to be managed out of South Africa? You build a whole new resource base of skills, expertise, and then exposure. So really, how can we enable the non-ZAR funds management within South Africa, and really to grow that pool of what kind of assets? We were talking about how do we get scale in South Africa, and the way we get scale is to think bigger than South Africa. South Africa has put a lot of groundwork over the 137 years that markets have existed to say we've got skills, we've got expertise, we punch way above our weight in terms of what we do in innovation and staying globally relevant. So why not bring some of those skills back to South Africa and we become global out of South Africa? And then the last one was reducing the cost of capital for small and medium-sized companies. I won't go through the background. We all know it, how our small companies, that's the pool that ends up with the number of delistings. That's the pool that doesn't have depth in liquidity. So we've looked at two tiers of what we're trying to mobilize there. One is through the listed markets, what interventions can we put in? All of these are very tangible, lots of detail behind it, to incentivize access into the small and mid caps. One, to generate capital. Two, for the trading element. How do we get more allocation into these markets? Better liquidity features, especially for the CISs. And then in the private markets, how do we shift some of the alternative investments mandates that many of our local fund managers are not utilizing at the moment into a growth segment that will generate jobs, new sectors, and then development for the country on a growth level. That is a catalyst for growth, other than tapping into our existing work streams. So I won't go into any more detail. Like I said, these are just broader, extensive detail on the actual work streams. I've summarized them for you. Lots of supplementary slides, lots of indication of what the UK markets have done. But I will pause there and then just see if anyone has any questions. If not, I'm available for questions outside and happy to share the deck and we can pick it up in a bilateral thereafter. Chris?
Thanks. So Val, it's really exciting to obviously hear about this. It's a positive step. Is there not a need for, I don't know, a department of regulatory harmonization that considers both buy and sell side regulation to bring these pieces together to effectively make a greater efficiency in how we operate and implement these sorts of initiatives? Because we've seen, over 10, 15 years, we've tripped ourselves up so many times on initiatives that we believe might work from a sell side point of view, but don't on the buy side, or vice versa. Yeah. And we've got a lot more in flux at the moment that are not helping us from an efficiency point of view.
Very useful. I take it as you putting your hand up to lead that work stream as we birth the new one. But I think that's really important. We've tripped all over ourselves. And I think we can pick it up. It can even go as a foundational block. But I do think we should drop everything into that pot and then filter out the ones that are tripping us up the most or that have the most unintended consequences if they go through without good consult. I have seen so much value.
Sorry, I think it's Erica, though, who should be...
We'll definitely look to add it in, Chris, and figure out whether it goes as a foundational principle from each of these work streams if we look. Because one of the things we want to unlock through these work streams are what are the policy or regulatory enablers or disablers in those work streams to try to get them ironed out. Yep. Thank you. Anyone else? No one else? Okay, good. Thank you, guys.